Right then, Monday, 18th of August, and the tone shifted. The dust has barely settled from Friday night's win, but already Celtic season is starting to take real shape. The warm-ups are over, the early noise is fading, and now it's all about what comes next. Kairat are due in Glasgow, and suddenly Wednesday night feels massive. The Champions League qualifiers always come with pressure, but this one in particular feels like it could define the mood of the next few months. And you can feel it around the club, the fans, the staff, the players. Everyone knows what's at stake. The serious stuff starts now. But before we get carried away with the Kairat clash, it's worth taking a moment to reflect on Friday's performance against Falkirk. A 4-1 win under the lights, and not just any win, but a performance that sparked real conversation about this squad. And in particular, the midfield. The atmosphere was bouncing, the tempo was high, and for the first time in a while, there was a real sense of fluidity in Celtic's play. A lot of the talk since then has circled around the midfield trio. Ori Engels, Rayo Hatate, Benji Negron, all in the mix. But it was Luke McCowan who really caught the eye for many. Now no one's saying McCowan is suddenly a nailed-on starter for Europe, but there's no denying he brought something fresh on Friday night. Quick passing, smart movement, and urgency that's been missing at times. Alongside Callum McGregor, he gave the team a rhythm that's sometimes lacking when Hatate or Negron are on the ball. That's not to say they're not quality players. They are, but it just looks smoother, slicker. There's a real case now for more rotation in that area, especially with 6 solid options available. And speaking of Engels, there's a debate brewing. Plenty of fans reckon he should start on Wednesday, and it's not hard to see why. He offers something very specific. Not just good on the ball, but dangerous from set pieces, or proper dead ball. Specialist. That's something we've lacked for a while now. You think about how long it's been since Celtic scored a direct free kick. We're talking seasons, not weeks. Engels came close on Friday, a wicked effort from out wide that had real venom. If it had gone in, it would have been one of the best of the year already. And beyond that, he's sharp, he's hungry. Even when Yang's cross ended up in the net via a Falkirk defender, Engels was visibly gutted the ball hadn't come to him. That kind of desire stands out. Still, Brendan Rodgers has decisions to make. Callum McGregor and Rayo Hatate are locked in. That third midfield spot is up for grabs, and it's a genuine toss-up. Negron has been consistent, and Rodgers might favor his control, especially in a European tie where keeping the ball is vital. But Engels brings a more direct threat, and you can't ignore his Champions League pedigree from last season. 9 starts out of 10 in the group stage. He's been trusted at that level before. So who gets the nod? Hard to say. There's logic to both choices, and that's the kind of selection headache managers love. The good news? Celtic's midfield, which was looking a bit stale towards the end of last season, suddenly feels like a strength again. Options everywhere. Depth, variation, and competition. That's how you push standards up. Another area where the fans are talking is out wide. Particularly Kieran Tierney. Now, this is a funny one because he's been outstanding since the season began. Arguably Celtic's most dangerous attacking outlet. And that's saying something for a left back. But Rodgers wasn't entirely thrilled after Friday's game, noting that Tierney's constant crosses were making the team too predictable. He wasn't digging him out, but the message was clear. Mix it up. Crosses are fine, but not every time. That left-hand side needs to be more versatile, more creative. And that's an interesting dynamic because Tierney's delivery is top class, but you also need a variation. What's really struck a chord with fans, though, is the growing frustration with the striker situation. Shen is the name on everyone's lips now. He's not had a real run yet, but supporters are desperate to see more of him, especially after Ida and Kenny failed to really make their mark in recent games. The idea of starting Shen against Livingston feels more than reasonable. Give him a proper run. See what he can do. He looks like he's got something, but he needs minutes. Real, meaningful minutes. And speaking of Livingston, that game might offer Brendan the perfect chance to rotate a bit, keep legs fresh, and also give a few players a proper audition. Because after Wednesday, things move fast. Kairat again, then Rangers, then the international break. This is the first real block of intense fixtures, and how Celtic navigate it will shape the months ahead. Friday night under the lights brought back something a bit special. A cup tie, a big crowd, and a feeling that the team is clicking. The atmosphere was brilliant, better than you might expect for an early round tie. Over 40,000 in the ground, and it felt like it mattered. Falkirk showed up too, made it a proper match. It wasn't just a stroll. Celtic had to work for it, and that's what made it enjoyable. Looking ahead, the quarter-final draw in the League Cup has handed Celtic a Glasgow derby against Partick Thistle, away from home at Firhill, and it's an intriguing one. Partick are the only non-Premiership side left in the competition, so on paper, it's the best draw Celtic could have hoped for. But away ties in the cup are never straightforward, and you can guarantee Thistle will be right up for it. Big crowd, local edge, and a chance to cause an upset. Still, it's a tie you back Celtic to handle, and another step on what could be a strong cup run this season. As for the Champions League qualifier, Wednesday night against Kairat is the one. It's huge, not just for the club's finances, although those are obviously important, but for the momentum and excitement it brings to the season. Celtic in the Champions League is special. It energizes everything. The squad, the fans, the ambitions. It's the kind of stage Celtic need to be on. And while Kairat are no mugs, this is a draw that should suit Celtic. They've traveled thousands of miles already in this competition. Slovenia, Finland, Slovakia. And now they're coming to Glasgow facing a Celtic team that's starting to warm up in a stadium that can be absolutely ferocious on European nights. They let a 2-goal lead slip at the weekend in the Kazakh League, losing at home. That's not ideal prep for a match like this. Their manager did rest a few players, but even so, it points to a team that might be vulnerable. The travel schedule alone is punishing. 12-hour round trips every week. That's got to take its toll. If Celtic come out sharp, aggressive, and with intent, there's a real chance to take control of the tie in the first leg. That's the key. Kill it early if possible. Celtic Park will be rocking. You can feel it already. Kairat won't have experienced many atmospheres like that. Maybe one or two in Serbia or elsewhere. But even those pale in comparison to what a full Celtic Park brings on a European night. If the team clicks like it did on Friday, especially with a few tweaks in midfield and attack, they could blow Kairat away. But it's not all smooth behind the scenes. Fan experience has become a talking point again after Friday's match. A newly erected barrier inside the concourse, being dubbed the Berlin Wall by some supporters, has drawn criticism. It's part of an attempt to control movement around the standing section and reduce overcrowding, but fans are arguing it's made the experience worse, not better. Limiting access to toilets and food kiosks, preventing people from moving around freely, and generally disrupting the matchday routine many have had for years. Feedback has already been passed on, and the club will need to listen. The demand for safe standing is clearly there. It outweighs the current supply, and the fan base has been consistent in wanting more sections opened. The stadium does need a refresh in certain areas, and part of that should involve giving fans more of what they're asking for, not less. There's also frustration over the newly raised dugouts at Celtic Park. Supporters sitting behind the benches have found their view badly obstructed, something that wasn't an issue before. It's the kind of thing that seems small until it's your seat, then it becomes a massive problem. You pay good money for a view of the pitch, not the back of a dugout roof. Hopefully that's something the club reconsiders. Meanwhile, in terms of transfers, the news remains underwhelming. There's 2 weeks left of the window, and the sense is that Celtic are still hoping to do business, but not making the kind of aggressive moves fans were hoping for. Calvin Stengs' name has been floated, with reports suggesting Celtic have made contact with his representatives. He's a Dutch international, technically gifted, played in France, played against Celtic before, the type of winger you'd love to see. I'll come in if the deal gets done. But at this stage, there's no direct contact with his club, and it feels more like speculative groundwork than anything concrete. Still, a name to keep an eye on. Injuries have slowed him down, but if Celtic could pull that off, it'd be a real statement. Right now, though, the focus is on Wednesday. That's the game that matters. Get through Kairat, and the season opens up in a whole new way. Lose, and you're scrambling. Europa League, less buzz, questions everywhere. The stakes couldn't be higher. Celtic have got the quality, the home advantage, and the crowd behind them. Now it's just about putting it all together on the same pitch. And while all eyes are on the men's side gearing up for Kairat, let's not overlook what happened with the women's team at the weekend. They kicked off their Scottish Women's Premier League campaign with a win over Hearts away from home, edging it 2-1 with goals from Morgan Cross and Natalie Ross. And that Ross-Cross combo? Bit of history there, possibly the first ever Ryman-born duo to score in the same game for Celtic. That's the kind of stat you like to see. The second half got a little nervy when Hearts pulled one back, but it's a solid start for Elena Sadiku's side, especially away from home. First match of the season against a stubborn opponent. It's never easy, but they dug in, got the job done, and now there's a platform to build on. That's what we're all craving right now, momentum. Whether it's the women's team, the B team, the first team, doesn't matter. The sense around Celtic right now is that everyone's ready to kick into gear, but the foundation still feels shaky. Some of that's down to the transfer window, no doubt. 2 full weeks left, and the tension's building. It's like we're all waiting for the moment when things just click into place. The key signings land, the performances hit a rhythm, the goals flow. But it's not quite there yet, and that's what makes Wednesday so big. It could be the spark. Still, it's impossible not to look at the transfer situation with some frustration. The squad has gaps, and we all know it. A striker is needed, that much is clear. A winger, too. Maybe another midfielder, if we're being honest. And the reality is, leaving that business this late is a risk. The idea of getting through Kairat and then strengthening feels backwards. Why not have the weapons in place before the critical tie? But that's where we are. The hope now is that the club can at least bring in the right players before the window slams shut. There's still time, but the margin for error is gone. What's maybe most frustrating is that the transfer targets being linked, like Stengs, show a bit of ambition. This isn't scraping the bottom of the barrel. These are players with pedigree, international experience, proven quality. Stengs in particular would be a huge get. The kind of technical, creative winger that could elevate the front line immediately. But those types of signings require decisiveness. They require serious conversations with clubs and agents, and often a willingness to go that extra bit on fees and wages. And that's where Celtic have faltered in the past. The hesitation, the late moves, the waiting game. Sometimes it pays off, but more often than not, you miss the boat. You get the feeling Brendan Rodgers knows it too. He's been calm in front of the cameras, measured in his language, but you can read between the lines. There's a hint of exasperation, a sense that he's waiting on promises to be fulfilled. The squad as it stands has quality in patches, but there are too many areas that feel half-baked. Too many players who haven't quite shown they belong or who aren't quite ready. You can build systems and tactics and fitness, but you can't fake depth. And when the fixture list tightens, as it's about to, you need players you trust. What's encouraging, though, is that some of the new faces are starting to find their feet. McCowan, as we mentioned, looks sharp. Engels, too. The hope is that others, like Shen, will follow. There's talent there, clearly. It's just about unlocking it. Friday night felt like a step forward in that sense. The energy was better. The urgency was there. And the crowd responded. That's always a good sign. Let's be honest, Celtic Park can be a tough place when things are flat. When the tempo drops or the ideas dry up, you can feel the tension ripple through the stands. But when the team plays with purpose, when they press high, move the ball quickly, take risks, the fans come alive. That's the identity this team needs to find again. And Friday hinted at it. Not the finished article, not by a long shot, but signs, glimpses, and that's all you need sometimes to believe again. What helps, of course, is when players show they care. That was what stood out about Engels. Not just the technical side, though he had that too, but the hunger. That moment when he looked genuinely disappointed that Young's cross didn't find him, even though it led to a goal. That's what you want. Not ego, hunger, ambition, a desire to be involved in everything, to be the difference. It's that same hunger that fans are desperate to see in others, especially up top. The Kenny and Ida performances haven't been disastrous, but they've lacked bite. There's not been that spark, that killer instinct, and you can feel the crowd's patience starting to thin. Shen is now the wild card, the one supporters want to see given a proper go. Not a cameo, not a 5-minute run out, a real start. A chance to show what he can do. And maybe that's Livingston on Saturday. Because come Wednesday, the stakes are too high for experiments. That's why this week is so pivotal. It's a stretch of games that could define the first third of the season. Kairat home, Livingston away, Kairat away, Rangers, then the break. 4 matches, each with its own weight, each with its own implications. But it all starts with Wednesday. And if Celtic can take a strong lead, 2 or 3 goals into the return leg, suddenly the pressure lifts. The mood lifts. The squad can rotate. The energy changes. You stop playing from a place of fear and you start playing with freedom. That's the power of momentum. That's why it matters so much to get it now, to take this week and make it count. But that's not all supporters are watching. The match day experience is becoming more of a talking point, especially with the changes around the standing section. That barrier that's gone up, separating fans, limiting movement, has annoyed a lot of people. For some, it's a minor inconvenience. For others, it's ruined their whole routine. No longer able to walk the concourse, meet mates, hit their usual food stand or toilet. For years, they've done it one way, and now it's been cut off without warning. The club says it's about safety, and maybe it is, but it feels like a move made without fan consultation. And that's the problem. It's not just what's done, it's how it's done. The communication has to be better. The relationship between club and support is precious. You break that trust, even a little, and it takes time to rebuild. Then there's the whole issue with the dugouts. New design, taller structure, and suddenly season ticket holders behind the benches can't see the pitch properly. How does that happen? How do you spend money on a change like that without considering the fans it'll affect? Again, not a minor gripe if it's your view, it's your seat, your experience. And it needs to be taken seriously. Add all of that up, and you get a picture of a fan base that's still deeply invested, but getting a bit restless. They want to believe in this project. They want to back the manager. They want to see Celtic thrive in Europe, compete domestically, and build something lasting. But they need to feel heard. They need to feel like there's a plan, not just on the pitch, but off it too. That's why Wednesday's game has so much weight. It's not just about progression in Europe. It's about setting the tone, about reminding everyone, fans, players, board, what Celtic is capable of when everything clicks. The crowd will be there. The noise will be there. It's on the team now to match that energy, to take all the noise and turn it into action. A big performance, a dominant win. That's how you silence the doubts and start building something real. And it's not going to be easy. Kairat, despite their domestic slip, are no pushovers. They've been battle-tested in qualifiers. They've traveled miles. They've got players who can hurt you on the break. They'll be physical, organized, and looking to frustrate. But Celtic have the tools to break them down. The key is intent, purpose, play at pace, use the width, keep the tempo up. The moment you start slowing things down, letting them settle into shape, you invite problems. But if Celtic fly out the traps, like they can, it could be a long night for Kairat. There's a confidence building again, slowly, quietly. It's not cocky, not bold, not yet, but it's there. You can feel it. The team is finding its feet. The fans are starting to believe again. The pieces are moving. What comes next is all about how Celtic respond to the moment. Big nights demand big performances, and this, make no mistake, is a big night. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. The rumour mill in Glasgow has rarely been as lively as it has been this week, with Parkhead once again noising up the entire Scottish football scene after the whisper that Celtic have all but completed the sensational capture of the young Italian. Striker Ambrosino. While official confirmation has yet to be pinned down, insiders close to the green and white corridor suggest that the paperwork is essentially ready, with only final signatures missing before the boys can unveil what many are already calling a generational addition to their attacking arsenal. Supporters across the East End are buzzing, pubs around the Gallagate are filled with chatter, and the city seems to be split between disbelief and pure excitement, as few expected such a glittering piece of continental talent to be wooed to. Glasgow amidst stiff competition from clubs in Serie A. The talk on the terraces is that Ambrosino himself was swayed by Celtic's history, the lure of Champions League nights under the lights, and the chance to become a hero in front of 60,000 voices at Parkhead, all chanting his name in unison as he fires the club towards domestic dominance and European relevance once more. If the move does indeed crystallize, it would not simply be another signing, but rather a statement of ambition from a club eager to reassert its weight on the continental stage. Sources whisper that the scouting department had been trailing Ambrosino for more than a year, quietly observing his progression, noting the sharpness of his movement, the maturity of his finishing, and the flair that marks him as a classic Italian forward with modern touches. Those who have seen him train claim his technique is polished beyond his years, a player who can glide past defenders with a single touch and strike with either foot, making him unpredictable and dangerous in tight situations. In a league where physicality often overshadows finesse, his arrival could be a refreshing injection of continental style, giving Celtic a new dimension in their attacking patterns. There are even mutterings that this deal might help the club strengthen its profile in Southern Europe, building bridges with agents and academies across Italy, which in turn could open doors to further young prospects who otherwise might have looked only towards England, Spain, or Germany for opportunities. However, as with any major piece of gossip swirling around a historic club, there's a degree of skepticism in the air, particularly from those who remember past summers filled with promises that never quite came to fruition. Some of the more cautious voices around Celtic Park argue that while Ambrosino's pedigree on paper is tantalizing, he remains relatively untested at the highest level, and therefore it would be unwise to saddle him with the weight of expectation too soon. Others point to the physical demands of the Scottish Premiership, warning that many technically gifted imports have struggled when faced with the harsh winter pitches of Dingwall, Livingston, or Motherwell, where finesse must survive in tandem with grit and resilience. There is also chatter about whether this signing could signal a shift in Celtic's recruitment philosophy, moving away from dependable but perhaps uninspired acquisitions towards calculated risks that carry both glamour and uncertainty. The board has remained tight-lipped as usual, yet the fact that the story has gathered such momentum suggests that smoke does not appear without fire, and fans are left balancing between dreamy excitement and the grounded pragmatism that defines those who have seen rumors rise and fade before. Among the supporters, though, optimism tends to overshadow doubt, and already social media is awash with mock-ups of Ambrosino wearing the iconic green and white hoops, his name printed across the back of the shirt, the promise of a new idol taking shape before a ball has even been kicked. Former players have joined the chorus, with some pundits praising the audacity of a move that could alter the perception of Celtic as merely dominant domestically but struggling abroad. The narrative emerging suggests that the Italian striker might well be the missing piece, the spark that helps bridge the gap between domestic dominance and European competitiveness, a reminder of the days when Parkhead regularly welcomed and defeated continental heavyweights. More romantic voices even recall the magic of Larson, imagining Ambrosino as a new talisman capable of lifting the club to heights not seen since the early 2000s. Although such comparisons are premature, they reflect the fervor and emotional stakes at play, illustrating how much this signing means to supporters who crave not only trophies, but also glory nights on the grandest of stages. Moments that reverberate far beyond the Scottish borders. All told, the Ambrosino saga has become a thunderclap in the Scottish sporting press. A story that has everyone from journalists to fans to rival supporters leaning in with curiosity and intrigue. While it remains technically a rumor until the official announcement is made, the sheer persistence and consistency of the report suggests that it is more than idle speculation. What happens next could define Celtic's upcoming season. Not only in terms of goals scored, but in the wider sense of reputation, marketability, and belief. If Ambrosino delivers on even a portion of the expectations swirling around his name, he could etch himself into the folklore of a club that thrives on heroes and legends. If, on the other hand, the gamble falters, it will serve as a reminder of how fine the line is between ambition and overreach. Yet for now, the green half of Glasgow chooses to dream, and in those dreams the young Italian forward is already running towards the Celtic faithful, arms wide open, Parkhead roaring in unison, the kind of moment that makes rumors not just idle talk, but the stuff of football's enduring magic. Hello fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.